I am very happy to be here. I'm very honored and blessed, first and foremost, by those who carry these signs in the streets. Yes, whose streets? Come on, whose streets? Whose streets? Whose streets? That's right. So I'm so happy to be with all of you as you were carrying the signs. I want to say honestly that I wish that I was only here to visit and hang out with you. As a former officer in the U.S. Air Force, now a member of Iraq Vets Against the War. Yes. But I don't want to sit here and support the troops for the mindset. I really want to be here because of the Iraqi people. The reason why I'm here is simply this. Some of you seniors who sit here from PSU, you juniors, activists, we must face the reality that with our taxpayer dollars, that over 1 million Iraqis have been exterminated off of the face of the earth. Folks who look just like you, got smiles like you, walk like you, got love interests like you, got children like you, get married like you, laugh like you, and because of our greed and our addiction to fossil fuels, they no longer sit here like you. They no longer breathe like you. Because of our addiction and our ability to let this administration do what it has done, because we so carelessly and so many are just walking by and say, what's the big deal? It's nothing but a rally. Bush is in charge. Who cares? What is the problem that now 1 million Iraqis are dead? 4.5 million are displaced. Can't go home. 2 million within Iraq. 2.5 million in Lebanon, in Syria, in Jordan. That would be the mentality that if there was a war in California, that half the citizens of California all came into Oregon. Can you imagine how that would have an impact on your system? What would that do to your schools? What would that do to your health care? That is what's going on in Jordan. That's what's going on in Syria. Madness is going on. I'm also here because today is historic. It's March 4th, and it's a powerful day in regards to our Constitution. It's also a powerful day in regards to our movement. Let me say this, I wouldn't be standing here today, an African-American, a brother from Shreveport, Louisiana. I wouldn't be standing here in Portland if it had not been for those almost 200 years ago and plus who said that slavery needs to be abolished. I'm so thankful that at that time in history, there were those who gathered. Not everybody got it, but there were those who gathered and said that we must end slavery at all costs. I'm so glad that they had the foresight to look ahead up to 2007, 2005, and 2008, and 1999, and 1900. I'm so glad they had the foresight to put their lives on the line for some black slaves. I'm so glad right now, because I wouldn't be standing here. Barack wouldn't be standing where he's standing if we would not have come against that injustice. But now we must stand as well. Because right now, if we don't stand up to what is going on and allow for endless wars to continue, if we allow for 1 million Iraqis to be exterminated, if we allow for wars to take place, bombs drop in Somalia, ships to be outside of Lebanon, if we allow this and this go to and for the cloud, class and drink our Starbucks coffee and kind of hang out and watch what's going on and watch Jumper and all the kind of things that's happening, if we allow for that and we don't come to the peak of resistance, we will be known as a generation that was the path of least resistance. History will look upon us and say, shame on you. Why could you stand up to this madness? Shame on you. Why could you stand up to against genocide? How could you go to class? How could you go to work? How could you just go about your business day to day? How could you allow for that to happen while you are alive? And so here we are, 8 years into the 21st century. We're at one of the most important times. And let me say this for my generation. Our generation, born after 1968, is the most important generation this country has ever seen. We are the dream generation. When Dr. King, who was now killed now 40 years ago, we are now more years away than he even lived. We, as that generation, were born on that balcony in Memphis, Tennessee. That dream that we could be judged in this country by content and not our color. We, the dream generation, as black and white and brown and yellow, male and female, theist and atheist, straight and gay, we could come together as the most powerful generation the world has ever seen. Our generation can end war. Our generation can end poverty. Our generation can change how humanity looks. We are that dream generation. So here we are at our lunch counter moment for the 21st century. What are we going to do? Are we going to get to the lunch counter as they did in the 20th century, and they tried to desegregate tables in North Carolina? Did they sit there and allow them to pour milk on their head and sugar on their head and call them the N-word and say, you drink at the black-only water fountain and I drink at the white-only? We noticed then that black students and white students sat down at the lunch counter because they believed in justice. They believed that they came together. We could overcome racism. We could desegregate our country. They came together. We'd be like John Brown and those who said that they would fight against slavery. Let me tell you something about priests. One of the great things you should know about institutions, that even the church at a point in time owned slaves. Compromising to the day. Churches, priests owned slaves to teach other people how to be good slave owners. And they were those who said, no, I can't allow that. So here we are, y'all, here at Portland. Yeah. Historic on March 4th, yeah. 2008. You're sitting in history. You're sitting right now, 20 years from now, they're gonna look at your face. 30 years from now, they're gonna look and see where you were sitting. And they'll see people walking to class, but they will look back and they will say, but there was a select few who sat down and recognized that if we don't stop this madness, 8 years into the 21st century, there will not be a 22nd century. Let me close by saying this. I know it's hard today. I know some of the stuff looks kind of weird, and for us, this might not be how we do movements. We might not do it this way. We might not carry signs and march in the street. But we gotta figure out a way to get in the way. Like I always say, we gotta use YouTube. I love YouTube. Use YouTube. Use MySpace. Use Facebook. YouTube is critical. When I was on Capitol Hill, and I attempted to go to General Petraeus' hearing, and I was beaten because I was an officer who wanted to see what the other officer was going to say about the surge, and I understood as an officer that when generals lie, soldiers die, and so when I tried to go, I was denied entrance and was beaten inside the Capitol. Yeah. But thank God for YouTube. It was captured on YouTube, and thousands of people watched it on YouTube. It's a revolution, may not be televised, but it will be uploaded. You know what I'm saying, baby? We will upload that thing. We will go out there and put that word out there so people can see truth and they can see justice. So here we are. We can't bring back those million. We can't bring back the injustice that's been done. I hope we can maybe impeach this person, but if that don't happen, what we can do now, we can come together and not just talk about yes we can in some kind of frivolous manner, but we can change history. You have now been passed the mantle for justice. If you study economics, use it for justice. Physics, use it for justice. Political science, use it for justice. Urban studies, use it for justice. But don't allow this time to pass you by, because 20 years from now, when some of you are 40 and 44, or 30 years from now, when your children ask you, what did you do, mommy? What did you do, daddy? When that president who allowed and killed 1 million people, what did you do? Do not come back with the comment, I went to class. Don't come back, I was too busy working my second job. Let them know I did everything in my power to fight for justice. I couldn't do much, but I went to the seminars and found out how I can get in the way of getting in the way. I couldn't do much, but I gave Backbone Campaign and Rucker Society $5. I couldn't do much, but I at least went and stayed at the march. I just didn't walk past. I couldn't do much, and I at least voted for those who would end war. I couldn't do much, but I stood up for justice. So let me hear you say, power to the people!
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 We will change humanity. Thank you.